Be it resolved.
Hello, and welcome to Be It Resolved, your weekly debate podcast where we debate serious topics and lighter topics, but always with lots of energy and a little bit of fun. So let me introduce the team. My name is Andrew Wood, and we have Al Brown with us here, Sarabjit Sandhu, Mario Karakides, and Andrew Oates. So today's moderator is going to be Mr. Brown, Al Brown. And so let me pass the word along to Al to give us the details.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Welcome, everyone, to today's podcast. I will be the moderator for a debate, the resolution of which, be it resolved, the Tokyo Olympics to be held this summer should be canceled. Just a brief background on these Olympics. The Olympics were originally scheduled for last year, but had to be put off because of the pandemic. For today's debate, the person speaking in favor of this motion will be Andrew Wood and Sarab Sandhu. Those speaking against the resolution will be Andrew Oates and Mario Karakides. Just to ensure that everybody understands the nature of this debate, we are debating on the merits to see who can prove the actual resolution, and our personal views on this particular topic do not necessarily reflect what we're saying. The intent is to debate and to try and win, which is what all debates are all about. And frankly, every time we go into the world today, we're debating with somebody on something. Now, again, just to give everybody a rundown on this, the debate timings will be for the resolution, for the constructive phase will be 3 minutes each. And we're beginning with Andrew Wood. Andrew, you may commence now.
Well, thank you, Al, and hello, fellow debaters. The position of Sarab and I are that the Tokyo 2020 Olympics that are scheduled for this summer should indeed be canceled. And quite simply, it's the right thing to do. Just a little bit of web research will tell you that there is a huge upswell of support for the cancellation of these games. We were reading about 6,000 doctors in Japan who've signed a letter all urging the IOC and the government to cancel the Olympics, and a petition online to cancel it got 350,000 signatures within a week. The people in Japan don't want to hold these games. Look, they're still under lockdown in Tokyo and in 3 other prefectures. The pandemic has not cleared, and it is just not safe. It is sure and certain that should the Olympics proceed in July, that there will be COVID cases. I mean, is it not clear that there must be? And the question is, how bad could it get? Well, the answer is it could get very, very bad indeed. There is no reason to suppose that this wouldn't be another super spreader event. You would think you've got thousands, tens of thousands of athletes potentially who are going to be coming to any number of different venues. And then the spectators, those who are allowed. And of course, there may be restrictions there, so that's an issue in itself. Just, you know what, you're bringing a lot of people together at a time in a place where it just should not happen. Now, the Olympics have been canceled before on a number of occasions when there have been worldwide events such as the World Wars to do so. So it's not an unprecedented thing. There's another set of Olympics coming up within the year. The following Winter Olympics are going to be hard on the heels of this one. And is that really good timing? Not at all. Well, let's just think about the Olympics themselves, if they are run. a number of countries, very many we assume will not be there. The ones who are there will be there with reduced teams. There'll probably be a reduced number of events. It's just going to be a shadow of the event that it could be and would be in normal times. So there's just, even from that point alone, I mean, any records that are set and gold medals that are won are going to have an asterisk beside them anyway. So there are just so many reasons why we ought to bite the bullet.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Your time is up. Now, I would like to invite the first speaker for the con side to the lectern here, Andrew Oates, please.
Thank you, Al. I'll begin my 2 minutes now. I'm no big fan of the Olympics, and there are lots of problems with the way things are organized and who gets to go and the costs involved and all of that. But given all those things, the question is, do we go ahead with what's been planned for years and years and years, or do we cancel it? A lot of money has already been spent. A lot of people's time and planning has gone into their training protocols. It's true that the Olympics were already delayed 1 year at great expense. A year ago, however, there was no vaccine. There was a lot less understanding of how to control and treat COVID-19. We're in a different situation now. Yes, they will be with reduced numbers of people participating. Yes, there will be far fewer people in the stands watching, but the big audience is on television. So that really doesn't matter. And all the people that are at home suffering lockdown, wanting something sporting to watch on TV, are going to be very happy to have the Olympics to watch. So I agree also, everybody's records that are set this year, they're going to have a little asterisk beside them, but there's often an asterisk beside for one reason or another, political reasons, pandemic reasons. It really doesn't matter all that much. And that's my 2 minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Andrew. I now invite Sarab Sandhu to speak for the motion. Sarab.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator, and my opponents and all the listeners. You see, the bookend on one side is the money spent. On the other side is the potential outbreak. So which one is going to win? See, when you have the international spectators, without any problem, you're going to have 60,000 athletes from 200 countries would converge in Tokyo at any one time. Now, there is a potential for an outbreak. And this is something similar to what happened in India when they had this Kumbh Mela, we have 4 million people in one place. I'm not saying it's only that big, but just imagine you had that. But if it was only the loss of dollars here, which is causing these games to go on. But just imagine when you had this pandemic, how much of money the governments gave up to the people just to keep the economy floating. So that this is nothing in front of what losses can happen because of the pandemic. This is just part of pandemic. The pandemic definitely going to be a super spreader event. There are a lot of doctors, as my colleague said, and all the people there, they want this not to happen because there is a problem. They may even give them COVID, or they can get some COVID back when they come back. So this is definitely have to be given a pass till such time that they are quite certain that this is not going to spread. But if they're going to justify that it is okay now, then this is wrong, because at the present moment, only 2% of Japanese have been vaccinated. And So the vaccination thing also has to increase. Maybe they have to wait for another year or maybe two before they can take decision. I would presently say now they should cancel the Olympics and they should wait for another time when the climate and the atmosphere, the COVID atmosphere is much better. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Sarab. And now we will have Mario for the closing arguments on the constructive side for the con side. Mario, over to you.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Moderator, and everybody listening. The argument that my colleague and I are making is to not cancel the Olympics. And the reason why, whether we are for the Olympics, whether we're against the Olympics, the reason that yet hasn't been fully articulated and should be is the fate of the athletes. And I'm talking about not the COVID fate, because according to statistics out there right now, 80%, it is projected that by the time the Olympics actually happen on July 23rd, that 80% at least of the athletes are going to be fully vaccinated. As a matter of fact, that is starting to be mandated as part of the process to have the athletes there. And you have to consider the side of the athlete, right? There are some athletes that are near end of their viability to be able to compete in an Olympic event. And they've been training for years, not only to get to the Olympics, some of them have been struggling to qualify for that, and they've been qualified for that, and now they're losing the opportunity because of this. So the fairness towards the athletes is something that has to be calculated in there. There are ways to go ahead with the Olympics without having an audience. And as Andrew Oates said, the majority of the viewership happens on television. And it is a psychological booster for us, especially through the past year that we've been through, to see something like that, to feel normal. And that has a huge effect beyond the economic aspect. Companies will still make money. There should be some kind of revenue share to bail out Tokyo through this process. So countries should pitch in for the fact that there's not going to be bodies in seats, and make sure that there is some way to mitigate those kind of losses that are going to be there. As far as postponing the Olympics, we are not at all opposed to that. I can see something like that being within 6 months or a year, allowing a lot of the COVID to subside in Tokyo, and also to allow athletes to be fully vaccinated as well. Folks, there is no easy solution to this, but we have to look at it beyond just the dollars and cents, and we also have to be not as rigid as to claim to shut it down completely, because there are other things that have to be considered. Livelihood of the athletes, future earnings, current earnings, advertising for sponsorships that the athletes go for, new athletes that are
Thank you very much, Mario. You have reached your time limit. And now what we're going to do is, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to engage in some questions. I'm going to ask the debaters some questions and ask them to provide some input, which will help you decide whether you think the Olympics should be canceled. My first question is, what is the value of the Olympics overall for the world of today? What does it mean to us? Can we start this with Andrew, for example?
Which Andrew?
Oh, Andrew Wood.
The value, well, there is great value to the Olympics, and they are one of the events that draw the world together. The problem and the issue with it is that we are in extraordinary times, and we have to recognize that. It is just the reality that with the worldwide pandemic, to bring tens of thousands of people together from all over the world for a couple of weeks of time, just enough for them to catch the virus and then bring it back to their home countries, how is it possible to miss the fact that this is a looming disaster?
Very good point there, Mario. What is your response to this question?
Well, the value, I will take you back, and since I'm Greek, I will take you back right to the roots of the Olympic Games. The Olympic Games were created for people in city-states in Greece to allow for competition to happen in a peaceful environment. Do you know that when there was conflict between city-states, between Athens or Sparta or wherever, that they actually suspended the war in order for their athletes to go ahead and compete? If they can find the mindset to suspend a war with hate being behind it, can you imagine? It's just a matter of our mindset. Andrew said something about going, spreading the virus. If you're going to have only the athletes there and they're fully vaccinated, that takes it down quite a bit, and the risk, if we are to believe that the vaccines are viable and effective. And right now, science has shown that they definitely are. So,
Mario, you know that the Olympics will inevitably spread the virus. I mean, by whatever percentages, time will tell. But it will indeed lead to the further spread of the pandemic. It's inevitable.
Right, but is it? You got to look at it from how much of a spread. You go to a grocery store here and there's a potential for spread. If the athletes are fully vaccinated, the staff that is working the stadiums fully vaccinated, and if we do postpone it for another 6 months or a year, and I'm not opposed to that, I don't see the risk being that high as right now, as the fear mongering is happening. Perhaps right now, Tokyo is not the greatest of places right now, but what if we push it again? Why can't we push it? I don't see the reason why. Why do we have to cancel it?
Okay, this leads to another question. How long into the future should we push the Olympics, say, and does it really achieve the aim? Sarab, can you have a stab at that question?
Yeah, thank you very much. You see, we are arguing here whether we should cancel it or not. But the Japanese citizens who are part of Japan and where this is going to happen, why are they involved? 80% of the Japanese citizens polled in January said they want the Olympics to be postponed again or canceled altogether. So now I was saying the one bookend, the only reason is there are $2 billion which have been spent, or they're going to be losing it because there will be no revenues from advertising and all that. But this is act of God as for their concern, because this has to be a safe place. So I agree with 80% of citizens that we should cancel it or postpone it again till such time that it is safe to do so. Now, Mario mentioned about they used to stop wars. Can they stop COVID? They can have the Olympics. If they can stop COVID, there's no transmission, go for it. We have stopped the war.
That leads, if we delay it, what about delaying it until 2024? I mean,
that's canceling it because 2024 is already planned for Paris. But
well, they can delay that.
Well, you can't do that because that just leads to a domino effect. They're all going to be delayed after that. But let's go back to the format in Tokyo. People are talking about as if 60,000 athletes are going to be there all at a cocktail party and schmoozing with one another and so on. They're going to be isolated. The scullers are not going to be with the hurdlers. They're never going to meet. There's going to be no parading of colors, no opening ceremony, no closing ceremony where everybody is all together. So the transmission risks are much less than people are thinking. And as I mentioned before, we know about vaccines now. We know how to control the virus. We know we have tools for rapid testing. And I would further add that if you polled people in any cohort of the world's population, the majority would say, I don't care about the Olympics. I don't get anything out of it in particular. So why should I pay tax dollars for it? So
well, it sounds to me like that would be an argument, Mr. Oates, in support of our position to cancel the Olympics if people don't care.
No, I'm saying that your argument, the majority of Japanese want them canceled, is a specious argument because the majority of Japanese citizens don't care.
It is their country. Why even they don't care? They are afraid that it'll be increasing. It'll be a super spreader event. Now, regarding that,
about the Canadian Olympics and what your opinion was.
I don't.
Bravo. Bravo, exactly that. In Canada, well, we didn't have COVID or anything like that. There was a huge uproar about the costs of having the Olympics in Toronto. As a matter of fact, we had our mayor going out and making everything, destroying that even possibility. But beyond that, the public opinion is mostly against the expense that gets incurred in here. So Andrew Oates is absolutely correct that you just can't make a claim, generalize that 80% of the population is against it because and only because of COVID. That is a bit of a stretch beyond belief.
Another example which has recently happened was the IPL, Indian Professional League. They were playing cricket. They were in a bubble. All the people from all the countries, they were athletes. There were 10 teams, and they were only showing it on television. Everything went well till one person was infected. He infected the next person. Now suddenly there are 10 people who are infected, and they shut it down.
Right. That was
now, this is exactly what Andrew wants to do. I mean, you can test and everything, but in the end, when you have it rampant, you don't have a chance to hold it back. And now there are at least 20 people who are infected.
Gentlemen, I have one last question that I want to ask people with regards to it. Is the Olympics, generally speaking, it goes back to the value of this event in the world. In a few words, is it worth it? Mario.
Yes. Highly worth it, absolutely worth it, unequivocally worth it, because it has so much to do with not only psychological well-being, but also it uplifts the human spirit.
Thank you very much.
People on this side,
Andrew, in a few words, is it worth it?
The people on this side of the debate agree. Of course the Olympics are worth it. We place no less high a value on the Olympics than our opposition here. But the point is that these particular Olympics, in the shadow of COVID-19, under these circumstances, the spread is inevitable. You can write those headlines already, and
Thank you very much,
to be a disaster.
Sarab, are the Olympics worth it?
It is very important because this is the epitome of any athletes or any persons where they can reach the highest. It's a singularity which we try to get. So in each sport, we have a champion and he feels good and everybody knows. It also uplifts everybody who's watching the same way, even if they don't play the sport. It gives them the that you are reaching somewhere.
Thank you very much, Sarab. Andrew Oates, I should say, the final word on this. Are the Olympics worth it?
They are worth it, but in the current format, there are a lot of improvements that could be made.
Okay, let's stop it there. We have to go on to Andrew, we must now go on to the next part of this debate. Now for the closing arguments for this debate. First, I will call on Mario for his remarks.
Well, thank you very much, Al. Let me close by basically saying this. The claim that from our opponent, Sarab Sandhu, claiming that it was only $2 billion of a cost is so grossly underestimated, it's beyond belief. Right now, we're looking around $26 billion estimated for the Olympics as they stand today. So the cost is not something that you can just throw out the window. The other thing is that we have to consider is this, that like we've argued before, the athletes are going to suffer from this, and we definitely need to make sure that we look after their particular interests as well. If they're going to be fully vaccinated, If it's done only on television, let's put it this way, in Europe right now and in South America, soccer games are happening without audiences. It's televised. It can be done.
Thank you very much, Mario. And now, closing arguments from Sarab, please.
Well, Mr. Moderator, all I'm saying is do not let this happen, because this is a super spreader event if it does. And even if it's 26 million must be the economy, what happens in Japan, but the actual revenues are not very much from the actual events. And even if you have bubbles where people are protected, you need one person to get infected, and then you have a rapid increase, especially with the B617 variant, which is very, very virulent, and it can expand very fast. So I think we should cancel this and watch reruns. If you really want to see this thing, you can cancel it this year. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Sarab. And now, again for the con side, Andrew Oates.
Well, again, having 60,000 athletes all mingling together is just not going to happen. And we're talking about canceling the Olympics. There's nothing saying if there's an outbreak in the sculling team, for instance, that you cancel that event. But that doesn't mean you have to cancel high jumping and everything else that people are tuning in to watch. Planning for the cycle of preparedness is very important to these athletes. Paris is coming up in 2024. As Andrew Wood pointed out, we have Winter Olympics coming up next year. If we cancel these things, they're canceled for good. And I just don't see any reason for doing that, given the preparedness that is there, the special medical equipment and expertise that's been assembled, the tests, the vaccines, everything else, because people know all about this.
Thank you very much, Andrew Oates. And now final remarks from the con side, Andrew Wood.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'm going to use my opponent's phrase. The Olympics should be canceled for good, and for the good of people the world over, to bring together 60,000 people from all over the world for several weeks' time and then have them dispersed back to the places where they come from. This is a recipe for disaster. A number was thrown out there by Mario Karakidis, $26 billion cost. I can't allow that to go unchallenged. That number is not supported by any evidence, and there's no reference to his source. So these kinds of numbers, I mean, that's irresponsible. But in any case, the bottom line is not finances. The bottom line is the fact that the world has been twisted into a pretzel for the past 16 months with a worldwide pandemic. And we just need to pull the plug on this. Why give the virus another chance to spread?
Thank you very much, Andrew. We will stop this debate here. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this rather lively debate on this particular issue, which I'm sure many of you have a keen interest in for one reason or another. Maybe you know somebody who is competing. Maybe you're looking forward to the events on television. Maybe you might actually be a competitor. Whatever the case may be, our routine over the last year has been heavily disrupted by the pandemic. Now, I'd like to commend the debaters today for bringing out some relatively interesting points. I was not aware myself of the fact that the Japanese people themselves are not in favor, or at least a considerable number of them are not in favor of this. Nor was I aware of all the arrangements that can be made to try and mitigate this problem. But definitely, all of these things combined will probably see something happen between now and when the Olympics are supposed to be held, because the issue of the pandemic simply cannot be ignored. I think we'll have to wait and see as to what will actually transpire, but I would like to suggest that based on the evidence that has been put forward, that I think the con side has made its case that the Olympics should not be, should be canceled.
That's the pro side. That's the pro side is arguing that the Olympics should be canceled. You said the con side.
Oh, my mistake.
Yeah. Well,
The con side has made its case that the Olympics should not be canceled. My mistake. I'm sorry, Andrew. In this
Well,
case, I don't think you won.
I'm going to lodge a protest then.
Well, you can talk to the Olympic Committee on this. As I said, I'm very hopeful.
It's the French judge again. It's the French judge.
The president of the International Olympic Committee will no doubt watch our arguments very carefully, judging them and making his decisions or her decisions on the basis of what we have just said. So at this point, we will carry on and talk about our next debate. Our next debate is another very contentious issue, something that has been around for generations, something that everyone has, I think, a good opinion, and some of you have probably even experienced it. Be it resolved, UFOs are real. That is the debate for us for next week.
Yeah.
And again, I remind everybody that the opinions that we're expressing here aren't necessarily our own opinions, but our opinions being presented in an effort to win a debate. And on that score, I'd like to say thank you for tuning in, and we hope to see you next week. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening, and please subscribe so you do not miss another episode. Thank you.